Technology, diversity, wine, the redwoods, and everything in between. Welcome to the Northern California Bay Area, and one show takes you inside the real estate that makes it all happen. This is By the Bay.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to By the Bay. I'm your host, Dan Anchetta, and I'm really grateful that you're here. Happy 2025. This is our first podcast of the year, and I'm going to try to be more consistent with my podcast production and so on. So please do like and subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, YouTube, anywhere else you might be listening to this, and follow us on social. Today, I have a return guest, Ed Troxell from Ed Troxell Creative is here, talking about like marketing and video production for small businesses, real estate agents, and so on. So Ed, tell us about you, and thanks for being back on By the Bay.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here. And yeah, it's all about marketing, and a lot of people think of marketing as you have to buy the billboards and you have to spend a ton of money on paid ads and leads and all those things, right? But you don't have to.
Right. Those are great strategies.
Yes.
Those work.
Yes.
But in addition to those, your business, the way that you help small business owners and realtors specifically, is to use technology they already have to start utilizing those items that aren't super expensive to start the marketing process.
Yes.
So tell me about precisely how are you helping people? What are you doing with small businesses to help them get their marketing message out?
Yep. So basically, I'm breaking it down into the simplest form possible for them using simple systems, tools that they already have. And this falls under what I call my stupid, easy client attraction formula.
Stupid, easy client attraction formula.
Yes.
That's great. That's great marketing in itself right there.
Exactly, right? It's where you can really break things down because we complicate things so much, especially when it comes to marketing ourselves and being able to take the technology we already have, the tools, the systems or lack of systems that we may have, and being able to bring them into our business even more, and being able to take what we know and share it with our audience through video.
Okay. So I have to go buy an expensive camera and learn how to edit software and do a bunch of stuff like that.
Absolutely not.
Okay.
That is the beauty of it, is we can push all that to the side. I mean, if that's your thing, great. Go ahead and do that. But I'll tell you right now, for most people, that's an excuse.
Right. So we were talking before we started recording, and that's literally what happened with me. I had this idea like 2018. It's like, I need to start a podcast. I got to do it. And it's like, well, before I can do anything, I have to get the logo right, and I have to do this, and I have to buy the camera, and I have to and then we got the cameras, but then the background wasn't right. So it's like, okay, well now I need to get the sound panels and the lights and the this and the that. But next thing you know, you spent a bunch of money and you haven't actually put out any marketing.
Right.
So that's pretty typical.
That's the typical thing that happens. And so when we think about the stupid easy client attraction formula, the first thing of that formula is content. So really think about your content versus your technology piece, because we get caught up in the tech and the expensive equipment. And that's that excuse where it's like, well, we don't have any of this right, and so I can't do it. And then even when you do get that equipment, guess what? It's probably in the drawer at your desk or the lighting kit's in the closet behind you, because it happens.
It took me a while. Like in this podcast room that we're in now, the boxes were kind of stacked up, and they're just sitting here. But I was busy doing other things, and it wasn't a priority. It was, but it wasn't the highest priority. And it sat here for weeks, months, longer, I don't know. And then finally we got it together, and then got over the hump and started doing it. But I can imagine for a small business owner or a solopreneur like a real estate agent is, that's really hard to find the time to build that expertise to master this very technical system.
Absolutely. And let's not forget, where's the space? We don't have space for that. Most business owners, agents, they're already limited on not only time, but space. Right. And so we have to think about where are we most comfortable and finding that space where we can just be ourselves. And for a lot of people, especially agents, it's in the car.
Huh. I did a whole video series during the pandemic called Q&A, like in the queue, like the line. And it was videos where I was sitting in my car waiting to pick up my daughter from school, but it was during COVID, so we couldn't get out of the car. So we had to sit in the car, and they would like put one kid in the car at a time. It was really weird. Weird time thinking back on it.
Oh, yeah.
But I did a video series because I was sitting there doing nothing, and I was like, I should just do some short video.
Yeah.
And it wound up being really fun. So like being in the car makes total sense. You're comfortable. You actually got some good natural diffused light coming through the windshield, right? Like pretty cool.
Lighting is so key, and the natural light makes a world of difference. And if you're worried about any wrinkles, guess what? They're gone, because good lighting always
takes
helps.
care of it. Totally. So break down for me. So like, let's say you're a small business owner and you're like, hey, I really want to start, marketing my business.
Yeah.
I don't have a huge budget. I have my phone, which is a great tool, right? So break down for me like the systems that you're helping them implement and getting over those humps so that they can start making content and start publishing it.
Yes.
Right? Because that's the other thing is people make, I have hundreds of videos that I've recorded that I've never posted because the moment passes, I don't like this, I don't like that, and whatever.
Yep.
But working on that. So how do you help people overcome the common the common themes that you see that hold people back?
Yeah. So usually the first thing is, what do I talk about? That's always the question.
Great question.
Yeah. It's always like, what do I talk about?
And people don't want to hear me. What am I supposed to say?
Yes.
I hear that a lot.
Exactly. So I always say, start with what you know. And the easiest thing, because of course that can get complicated real quick, the easiest thing is Q&A. What questions are you being asked on a regular basis? What answers are you constantly sharing with them? That is your content right there, and that is the thing that you start to run with until you get that down like a well-oiled machine.
So the frequently asked questions, the stuff that the last client call you had, the question that they asked you, write it down.
Yes.
Like, write down that common question that people are asking, and then turn it into a short video and post it to social. And not just one social, all socials.
Absolutely. And so here's the cool thing. When you brought up a great point. After a client call, you are in that magical moment of being with the client, having that, energy, that moment is so strong.
Yeah.
Stop scheduling yourself back-to-back in meetings. Give yourself a few minutes to have a break in between so that you can capture that moment, not just writing it, but recording it.
Right. Oh, recording it in the moment.
Yes. Okay. Again, we're not worried about editing. We're not worried about being perfectly polished. We're worried about capturing that moment. And when you do it in that moment, right after you had that client call, you're not paying attention to, is my hair right? Is my lighting? No, you're with the client.
And I think it's pretty natural. Like I always struggle with how do I start?
Yeah.
Right. So I think it's natural to be like, I just got off a call with a client and they asked me this question.
Yes.
And like you can start all of your videos with, I just talked to a client, they asked me this question and I wanted to answer it for everybody.
Yes.
And capturing it right there.
Exactly.
Smart.
Yeah. And if you really wanted to, and you wanted to get into character, you can frame it as, you asked this question, so I'm answering it.
Right.
And then you go into what that question was.
Smart. I really like that. So making it easy to have ideas to create content.
Yes.
And so far you haven't mentioned using ChatGPT to prompt you or anything like that, which is a great tool.
Yep.
But you're talking about this very organic communication that you're having, the conversations.
Yes.
It's essentially taking the conversation that you've had with a client offline and taking a moment to record the answer.
Yes.
After the fact.
Absolutely.
Right? So tell me about the formula that you're teaching people to help them understand the importance of creating content and having conversations.
Yep. So once you have those pieces of content created, so we have the Q&A and we recorded the video. Now we're thinking about that video going on multiple channels. So we're trying to be omni-channel present. So it's not just an Instagram reel or a TikTok video.
Okay.
It's a video that's going to be literally on multiple platforms, which I know for some is a pain because they're like, I have to have all these channels and
they all require different things.
Right.
And they all need to be optimized slightly differently.
Yes.
So what channels are we talking? We're talking Instagram / Facebook because they're cross posting.
Yep.
TikTok.
Yep.
YouTube.
Yep.
Where else?
LinkedIn.
I think people sleep.
LinkedIn.
I think people sleep on LinkedIn.
Yep. It has changed since the pandemic, and it's one that you definitely want to have a presence on.
And they just recently they had a beta of the video function.
Yes.
And then I recently updated my app maybe 2 weeks ago or so, and that's a permanent feature now, it looks like. So they're having short video content
Exactly.
on LinkedIn, and I don't think many people are posting on it.
Right.
So I think that you, for organic reach right now, can do really well building an audience on LinkedIn.
Absolutely. And what we're talking about here is building a personal brand, right? I mean, it's now more than ever, it's a time for you to be your real authentic self and showcasing who you are, what you do, why you do it, and what's that reason behind it, you know? Because that's what people want, and they don't want the perfectly polished, videos and perfectly polished everything. Like, the more raw and real you are, the better, which is why car videos do so well.
Yeah, I agree with that, and I also think that posting about your failures and lessons learned is probably better and more engaging than only posting about your success.
Yep.
I've posted some vulnerable things on like LinkedIn and that sort of thing, and I get so much more engagement in those posts than I do when it's like, just funded this thing, just did this, just had a great meeting, just did this. And it's like, I posted maybe a couple years ago now. Yeah, time flies.
It does.
It was like, hey, I set up this whole event for a realtor education thing, and nobody showed up.
Yes.
Not a single person. And I recorded like in the moment, like I'm in that room, like, man, this is really like this hurts, this stinks. But hey, I'm going to get up, I'm going to still go. Even though no one showed this one, I know this is valuable in providing content. I'm going to keep doing it. I got so much online and offline engagement from that. People called me and were like, I saw your video. I'm so sorry I wasn't able to attend. Like, keep doing it. This is really cool. I want to keep coming. And other people like online are like, hey man, you just got to keep doing it, man. Keep fighting the fight. And that type of engagement builds your brand.
Yes.
Yeah.
And let's talk about that for a second, because what you just said is so crucial for building not only our confidence and our better habits. Is you started an event, no one showed up. What now, right? You didn't stop.
You quit and you never do it again.
Exactly. You put that on the calendar. You did it. Even if nobody showed up, it didn't matter. Your goal was to offer it, open that door. And then in that time, you also created content out of it, which sparked conversations, right? And out of that, you're bound to, if you didn't already, you're bound to get some conversions. And that's part of that formula we were talking about. Right. Content plus conversations equals conversions. The conversion could be a sale. That conversion could be a referral. That could be another event, like collaboration. Like, there's so many things that come out of it. But I love that you still showed up and you created your content out of it. And that's something I want everyone who's listening to pay attention to. You know, especially when I'm talking to small business owners, I'm always reminding them that marketing is not just hey, I created a video and I got nobody, so I'm not doing it again. It is a long process. It's not a magic pill. You're building relationships. And the way I always frame it is, look at it as like going to the farmer's market. You aren't going to just have a booth for one weekend and then be done. You're going to have it for at least 4 weeks, if not longer, so that people who are regulars who skipped you the first 2 weeks because they went to their same booths, realize on week 3 and 4, oh, I didn't see your booth here.
Yeah, you're going to sign up for the season, right? Like there's a 6-month commitment there.
Yes.
And you have to play the longer game.
Exactly.
Right? And if you're not ready to play the long game, then regardless of what business you're in, you're not going to find a lot of success. It reminds me of the post I recently saw from Mr. Beast. You know who Mr. Beast is?
Yeah.
He's like the #1 streamer, YouTuber in the world, content creator, gets billions and billions of views and so on. And he actually went back and looked at his like follower count over the years. And it's like early years, it's like 10, you know, and it's like 20. It took like a year to get to 100 followers.
Yeah, whenever you're ready.
Okay. So it reminds me of the post I recently saw from Mr. Beast. You know who Mr. Beast is?
Yeah.
He's like the #1 streamer, YouTuber in the world, content creator, gets billions and billions of views and so on. And he actually went back and looked at his like follower count over the years. And it's like early years, it's like 10, you know, and it's like 20. It took like a year to get to 100 followers.
Yeah.
And then it starts picking up acceleration, but he didn't stop. He just kept posting, kept going, engaging, like not only posting, but then communicating and having conversations after he posted, and engaging with his followers so that they told more people and shared his stuff. And now he's got billions of views, and I don't even know his follower accounts, hundreds of millions on all the platforms.
Yeah,
he's probably the number one influence brand out there.
Right.
And he makes an incredible amount of money, and someone offered him $1 billion with a B for his YouTube channel, and he just for the YouTube channel, the English language YouTube channel, and he turned it down. And someone else, another like business person, went in, like analyzed like the value of his brand, comparing it to eyeballs that watch Super Bowl commercials, which is timely because next week is Super Bowl. I guess this week. This Sunday. Anyway, and they're like, yeah, that brand is probably worth like $15 to $20 billion based off the number of engagements and eyeballs that he gets off the content he creates. But the point of that whole thing is that he didn't start with 100 million followers.
Right.
He started with like 1, and then like 10, and it took years to build the audience.
Yeah.
He had the long game in mind when he first started.
Absolutely.
He had this vision, and he just kept doing the right things, executing, recording, posting, engaging.
Yes.
And it's led to this massive success.
And that's that simple system we're talking about here, right? Is finding the time, putting it in your calendar, thinking about your content, recording that content, and then being able to create those conversations through your content, through those conversations in the comments, in the DMs, the direct messages. All of those things are taking place simultaneously.
Makes total sense. And then as your brand evolves and you get a little bit more sophisticated and you find some success and start making money and converting to close sales, if you want to upgrade your camera and do your thing and kind of up your level a little bit, that's totally cool. Or continue doing what you've been doing because it works.
Yes, and that's the thing too. We have to remember when we're thinking about our small business owners, our solopreneurs, our real estate agents, we're not trying to be a Mr. Beast in the sense of the influencers. I mean, the money can come, sure, but like we're not trying to be that level, right? We're trying to be a local influencer for our local market. And so we have to remember that followers don't really matter, especially these days on social, that it's just a number. It's the impact that we're making. And so I don't want people to think like, well, if I only have 100 followers on Instagram, I'm not doing well or anything. That followers mean nothing these days, because a lot of these platforms are taking the TikTok approach where they're pushing more content from people you don't know yet.
Yeah, like the For You page is changing. The algorithm has changed the way that we engage. I think, in my personal opinion, I'm putting more time and effort into TikTok and LinkedIn. I think those two are better. I think Instagram and Facebook are still great platforms because there's a ton of eyeballs there, but to get more engagement on there, you have to pay. It's a pay-to-play model, which is fine. I still post there, but I'm more interested and kind of focused on the LinkedIn and TikTok and YouTube.
Love that.
I think there's more organic reach, and most people that I talk to, they say, I've seen you on these platforms. So anyway, okay, so going back, if you're a solopreneur, entrepreneur, salesperson, that sort of thing, video content creation is probably your number one or number two client attraction. I think it's like past clients. If you have I think this could also play into it. I'm a big fan of a newsletter.
Yes. Right? We will talk about that.
Newsletter is huge. I get yours. It's great.
Oh, thank you.
And I think, did you get a lot of engagement from that? Tell me about that.
So when we're talking about newsletter, just for those who aren't familiar, it's an email newsletter. And so email newsletters get a bad rap. I mean, email in general gets a bad rap.
I think people have think that email is dead.
Yes.
And I don't think it is.
It is not. And
I think bad spammy email is dead.
Yeah.
Right? But like good, thoughtful, engaging content-filled email,
it works.
Valuable.
Yes.
It still works.
Yes, it's crazy. So I used to hate email marketing. Like I knew the benefits of it for my business, but I didn't want to do it.
Sure.
And I literally, my email comes out every Friday at 10 a.m. And so I used to be at Thursday night at like 8 p.m. writing the email.
Fretting, sweating, trying to write it.
It was terrible. Now I'm like a couple months ahead of the game because I have planned it. It's been part of my routine.
So this is pre-scheduled, and you basically just add people to the audience
Yes.
as you contact them?
Yep.
Right?
Because I have a system in place that allows me to do that. Anybody who's booking a call with me, anybody who is having some kind of conversation with me, hey, do you want to join the email list? And I explain to them what it is. I can't tell you how many times people say yes out of that. Like I'd say probably at least 8.5 out of 10 is saying yes.
I think it's incredibly awkward to say no. If you're having a one-to-one conversation, if it's just like in an email, just click no, whatever.
Yeah.
But if you're like, hey, I'm really excited about this weekly newsletter that I put out, and I would love to send it to you. It comes out every Friday at 10 a.m.
Yep.
Right? And you're like face-to-face, someone would be like, yeah, no, I'm not going to do that. No, thank you. Like, that would be really awkward to say no.
That is true. That is true. So I should say that most of those conversations are actually through email or checking a box.
Got it.
So they do have the option
Okay,
to
it's
say
less
no.
awkward.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And I would also tell them too, like if we were having that face-to-face conversation, like there is no pressure. Like I don't want you on my list if you aren't going to.
If you're just going to send me to spam, then don't
it's not worth
get
it.
Yeah.
You know, and so going back to the newsletter piece of it, so I have my system down. It's every Friday 10 a.m. this email comes out. It's got tips in there. It's got advice. It's got Q&A with me, and then of course any promotional stuff.
And
events,
some video content.
And it will have some video content. Yes. Well, and mostly my welcome series. So this is something a lot of people don't talk about. It's not just the email newsletter that goes out weekly. It's the welcome series that you get when you join my email list.
So there's a separate journey that they go on.
Yes, before they even get the welcome series. I mean,
2 or 3
newsletter.
week or 4 week like intro to the brand.
Yes.
And then they get fully integrated into the weekly regular mail.
Yes.
I really like that. I got to think about that because I don't have that.
Yes.
I got to think about how I would implement that onboarding welcome
exactly.
series.
Yes. So it's taking stuff you've already done, probably email newsletters you've already put out, blog posts, episodes of this podcast. Boom. You can start to build out a little sequence there. And then that's what people get when they first, it's just like walking into the door.
I like how you dropped the sequence reference, by the way.
Yes.
Appreciate that.
You're so welcome.
I know.
It's one of those things, you know, it's, again, we have to think about it as we're talking to people like that. We got to be personal. And that's why I have over a 50% open rate. That's why I get engagement on
phenomenal.
my
50%
emails.
is great.
Especially when the typical is 20%.
I mean, if that.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you have a curated audience, 20% is great. If it's just cold, it's like less than 1%.
Right.
If you're at 50% open rate, you're doing something right, and people should be listening to you.
Yes.
So if you're listening to this and you have an existing newsletter or you want to do email newsletter marketing,
Yes.
It's very cost effective because you're not buying stamps.
Absolutely.
Right? You can automate it,
Yes.
as Ed has just described. And if you're doing it right and you're putting thought and effort into it, you should have a very high open rate, and that will lead to more success.
Yes.
So if you do not have that level of success, you need to call Ed,
Yes, please.
schedule an appointment with him, and make sure that you're learning. If you do nothing else, the email newsletter piece itself is worth the consultation.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, you already have contacts. That's the thing. Most people already have contacts that they've gotten through their sales or through appointments or whatever. Now and some actually have email lists that they have people.
Sure.
signed
Past
up for.
clients, friends, family. I mean, you just.
All of that.
And you never know when your next, like, depending on what your business is, you never know where your next client is going to come from.
Exactly.
So-
I had one client who implemented, she was not wanting to put the email newsletter thing into place. She implemented it, and I'd say within less than 2 months, she brought in additional 5 figures to her business.
It's unbelievable. I mean, that's unbelievable.
Yeah.
So if you're, I hear a lot of small businesses struggling, real estate is slow,
Yes.
it's really hard. Like, I validate that, and that's true. But I think that there are plenty of tools and opportunities that don't cost a fortune.
Right.
That don't require new subscription services and new this and new that.
Yeah.
You could do it with all the technology you already have. and crush it.
Yes.
Right. So walk us back through. Okay. So we went through the success formula, using tools that you already have, recording where you're comfortable. Don't go and spend 5 figures on a bunch of recording stuff that's going to sit in boxes. Learned from Dan. Don't do that.
Yes.
Been there. Turned out okay. I mean, in the long run, but definitely could have been years ahead in the content creation if I just started.
And less stress too.
It was incredibly stressful.
Yeah.
But that's okay. Okay. What other tools? Okay. So another thing I hear all the time is, when am I supposed to do that?
Yes.
So help me understand how do people find time?
Yep. So you have to find the right time for you, right? So if you are busy all the time, one, that's just an excuse. Like, you'll make time for the priorities that you want, right?
Sure.
So for example, going back to my newsletter, is Friday at 10 a.m. the best time to send an email statistically? No. Like, usually it's Tuesdays and Thursdays, Tuesdays and Wednesdays, sometimes Thursdays. But that's what worked for me and getting me on a schedule. And now I'm committed to that schedule, and my audience knows it too.
It's predictable.
They know.
I know.
Yes.
Friday mornings.
Exactly.
The entrepreneurial edit is coming in.
Good.
Yes. I do read it.
Yes.
I'm not a deleter.
Yeah. And so I've trained myself, but now I've trained my audience. And then we were talking about Monday afternoons. That's when I record my podcast. And so that's because I typically know that between my 4 and 5 o'clock hour, I have slower time.
Right.
And I've actually made that my podcasting time. So nobody can actually book during that time.
So it's time blocking.
Absolutely.
And it's what you do.
Yes.
Okay. So I think that is really crucial for anyone who's self-employed, solopreneurs, and I'll speak to the mortgage people who are listening as well.
Yes, please.
Time blocking is so important.
Yeah.
We will run ourselves ragged chasing down clients and chasing down deals and from finding busy work to do.
Yes.
Instead of doing the things that make us uncomfortable, like getting in front of a camera.
Right.
And it's incredibly uncomfortable. The first few episodes of this podcast I did are terrible. Don't go back and watch them. They're really bad. But I was doing my best and I was learning.
Yeah.
And it's a process. And I had like a list of questions and I'm like reading, okay, now Ed, second question is like, it was bad, but over time, I got more comfortable, and now we don't even talk before. We just bring people in, we make them comfortable, and it's very natural.
And that's the beauty of it, right? And that's also something that listeners can understand too, is you start where you are, and if you do have questions and you want to have the paper in front of you, use that as a prop.
Sure.
Especially when you think about agents. Like, you have a listing right there, a form talking about the whole home and what's included and stuff. Use that as a prop. Hold it up. Like, embrace where you are and be you.
Yep,
and
totally.
it will come off.
It makes total sense.
Yeah.
Be authentic. If you're a real serious person, it's okay to be serious and don't try to change your personality to fit some narrative that you want, that you think that you should look like online.
Right.
Be yourself.
Yes.
Right. And do it naturally as best you can.
Yes.
We were talking before, and I think I might do this.
I was just thinking this.
Yeah.
You're on the
I think I'm going to do it. I think
I want to see it.
I'm going to share the idea, but I think I'm going to do it.
Yes.
So Ed and I were talking before about how you can be really silly, and not everything has to be a grand house tour for a realtor where you're walking through and here we are on my GoPro and here we are in the kitchen and then look, it opens up to this. That's okay for some content, but I think people really want to be entertained and they want to be engaged. So we were talking how funny it would be if you went to an open house and you started the video going like, hey everyone, we're at 123 Main Street and I am Dan and I'm a mortgage lender, whatever, and I'm going to take you through this house, and if you own this house, I'm going to find the best hiding spots if you're playing hide and go seek, and just like run around. Someone's already doing this, I think you said, but I love that idea because it shows some personality, it shows fun. I play that with my kids, like we're playing games like that. It would be hysterical to run around the house and do that, and what different engaging content that would be.
Yes.
It's not boring like everyone else is doing.
And it sparks curiosity,
right? Because
now people are getting involved and they're like, oh, well, that's different. Oh, where do you want to hide?
Yep.
Oh, what is that?
And I think it would be, I think it would be easier to make because it would just be like, it's just funny. It's just like, I'm just walking through this house going, okay, where's a good hiding spot? and then like shooting a quick video.
Yeah.
Like, okay, here I am. I'm hiding here. This you can be hiding or bringing a selfie stick tripod, like
Yes.
$30 on Amazon. Everyone should have one.
Yeah, at least one. I have 4, but yeah,
You have 4.
There's one in the
One in the
car, one in
car.
the bag, one in the office.
There you go.
Get one for backup just in case.
What happens if your selfie stick breaks? Can you imagine?
It would be a nightmare.
Yeah, and setting that up and being like, oh, you're hiding behind the door, and it's like you can kind of see yourself, and you set it up in the bathroom, or whatever, and you're like, I'm behind the door. This is a great hiding spot. That would be hysterical.
It would.
And I think it'd be great content. Great engaging content.
And if you wanted to take it one step further, and you had somebody, ideally, you probably would have somebody go with you because they would want to know that you're going to do this. But one thing that could be fun is then you jump out and scare the other person.
Oh yeah.
Right. Like, and they have their reaction like, oh my gosh, like what?
So that's super authentic because for real, that's my favorite game to play with my kids.
See?
Like I just love jump scaring them, and they know that it's coming.
Yes.
And I still do it. It's the best.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's fun when you can do stuff like that, and then people see who you are, and they're like, Dan's a good guy. Like he really knows his stuff, but he's also a real human. Like I want to hang out with Dan, and that's when they're going to have those conversations with you.
See, this is great. I really love this conversation. What else should entrepreneurs and people be thinking about when it comes to their not just video, just marketing in general?
Yeah, really these days, think about your video content, your multiple photos. So what we call carousels on Instagram, having those multiple photos, because that will get more reach as well on the platform if you're using Instagram. So you have your videos, your photos, and then that email, right? And we're trying to really connect all the dots here between our website, our blog, if you're using the blog, and then the social media content, and putting that into that email piece of it. And for some, we were talking about this earlier, for some people, especially agents, they might be using an automated email that comes from their brokerage. Fine, that's great, that's a start. But again, we're trying to get personal here. So have your own email.
Right.
And use that.
I think it's really important. Every major brokerage out there has some, canned weekly email thing. It's a great starting point. They have great ideas, but take those ideas and expand on them and make them your own.
Yep.
And then add that video of yourself, add that personalized thing. But I would think what you said was really important. I don't think we totally tied it together, was that in the newsletter, it's combining things you've already done.
Yes.
It's like taking the blog, a portion of the blog, taking a clip of the long form that you did, taking little pieces of all these different things, some of the stuff from corporate, some of the stuff that you saw someone else post on social that you're, what is Tom Ferry, R&D, ripping off and duplicating, right? Like R&D some stuff, make it your own. And it doesn't have to be a fully brand new newsletter. It's just taking pieces of stuff you've already done.
Yeah, it can be a recap.
And you can utilize tools like Chat, GPT, and other AI models, language models, to help start the post and then change the language to be your own.
Yes.
Right?
That's the thing. We're in such a beautiful time marketing wise because we're able to create content in seconds for any channel we want. And we have the power of AI, ChatGPT, and we have our phones. There's so much that we can do in literally 15 minutes that would have taken us hours, if not days, in the past.
Right. So now it's about what holds people back, the emotional, the security, feeling safe to post, feeling like they are confident in themselves to do it.
Yes.
And overcoming those hurdles because the technology is no longer the issue.
Nope.
You've got it in your pocket, right? It's not a cost situation because you've already owned it. And if you need a selfie stick, call Ed.
Yeah.
He's got an extra one laying around.
It's so true.
And there's no excuse besides yourself getting comfortable to do it yourself.
Yeah.
So, if you need help with that, call Ed.
Absolutely.
Talk to him. Schedule a consultation because that's what you do is help people overcome the fear.
Yes, because that's the biggest thing is, again, we use the excuse of technology. We use the excuse of not knowing what to talk about. We use the excuse of not having the time. And those are great for starting points, but I said they're excuses and we'll squash that.
Right.
It really comes down to mindset and working on your inner self. When I first started my business, I didn't know I wasn't going to be on video. I didn't want to do that. I hated the sound of my voice. I hated being on camera. I didn't want any of that.
Totally.
And then I realized, well, I either go back to a 9-to-5 or I make this business work for me. And the only way I'm going to do that is if I market differently. The only way I'm going to do that is if I get on video. So here we go.
Okay, say that again one more time, because you said this and I'm thinking of 20 people that I know personally that need to hear this message. Your options are
go back to a 9-to-5 or practice getting on video.
like get better,
yeah,
or go back to a 9-to-5.
Yeah.
And most people that are solopreneurs, real estate agents, mortgage lenders, they don't want that 9-to-5 clock in, clock out lifestyle. That's great for lots of people, but for most realtors I know, that's like their worst nightmare.
Right.
So
And they have so much content. And even when we think about small businesses, restaurants, for example, there is so much content. And again, I know everyone's busy, but at the same time, you're wanting customers. You want your clients to come to you, right? So you have to put yourself out there. And the best way to do that is going to be through video content, and it doesn't have to be perfectly polished. Like, get it done. That's all that we're asking for.
That's right. It doesn't have to be perfect, just get it done. I think that's a great place to leave this podcast.
Yes.
So, Ed Troxell, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
I'll make sure that all your contact information and stuff is in the show notes.
Yep.
Is there any last message you want to give to the audience about, what you do, how you can help them, and so on?
Yeah, I mean, we'll have it in the show notes, but I have a free checklist that people can download to help.
We love a free checklist.
Yes, and I will hold you accountable, because once you download it, I will check in on you to make sure you actually
and then add you to the newsletter.
Exactly. Yes.
See?
Exactly.
It all comes together.
Yeah. So go download the Stupid Easy Client Traction Checklist and start there, because it has a lot of great info, a lot of what we talked about and more that can help people on their own. And then, of course, they can always connect with me after that too.
I love that. So you're giving away stuff for free.
Yeah.
Come check it out. If this helps you and you never need to talk to me, but the checklist helps you, great.
Yep.
Congratulations. Wish you all the success.
Yeah.
If the checklist resonates with you, but you still need some accountability and some help in overcoming those, the fear and the kind of objections to doing it, right? You know that you need to, but you still have this thing that holds you back. That's where they become a client of yours, and you'll help them, coach them, and help them find success.
Absolutely, because we're in a stage where the information's out there. You can have the information, but you need the person that's going to hold you accountable who's going to be that guide for moving you forward.
Accountability is where it's at.
That's
Ed,
huge.
you are the man. Appreciate you being here back on the show.
Thank you.
And we will see you next time on By the Bay. Thanks for being here.
Stay up to date with Bay Area real estate. Hit subscribe now if you haven't already. Did you enjoy this episode? We love reviews in the Apple Podcasts app. We'll read yours on the show. This is By the Bay.
London Ear Media.